It all begins in Los Angeles in the 70s. A woman and a guy named Rodney are in the middle of a desolate place taking pictures. While the young woman tells about the breakup with her ex-boyfriend, the man captures the woman in her different emotions. Then from one moment to another the young woman releases tears remembering their relationship. Rodney approaches to photograph her in a closer shot. But he also does so in order to caress her. Although his hands touch her neck, she gets uncomfortable and tries to pull away. But Rodney again tries to get closer. The young woman, realizing that she is in danger, tries to run away, but she does not get very far because she is caught by this guy who ends up strangling her. Not being this enough, the psychopath gives the woman breath and brings her back. She again wants to escape as she can, but she cannot do it, and the black image makes us understand that we will not see her again. On the other hand, we meet Cheryl, who is looking to find work as an actress, but has not had good opportunities. In the auditions she is often asked to act naked, something that the young woman does not agree with. Upon returning home from an audition, Cheryl runs into a friend named Terry, who is also an actor. This guy is a bit nosy and overwhelms the young woman a bit. He doesn't even give her space to talk privately on the phone. Cheryl just talks to what seems to be her manager named Helen, to whom she lets her know that she is doing badly and barely has enough money to pay the rent for her room, and she is not so sure about continuing on this path. Helen tries to give her hope in this world and proposes her to attend as a guest on a TV show called The Dating Game, where she will have to blindly choose one of 3 bachelors and go on a date. This is a program that doesn't appeal to Cheryl at all, so she is going to meditate with Terry about it over a couple of drinks. She feels that she has tried very hard but is not getting results. She hasn't even had a date in about 2 years because she was very busy, and now she is going to have to do it to make a name for herself and get a possible role. After talking for a little while, Cheryl already wants to leave because the next day is his participation in the program. However, Terry insinuates himself with our protagonist and takes her by surprise, but noticing that he is interested in her, decides to take one more drink to finally spend the night together, something that apparently Cheryl regrets the next day. On the other hand, we go to the year 1979, where we meet a young girl named Amy who sleeps on the streets and has to steal money from a laundry to eat. While she was counting her money, out of nowhere Rodney appears taking pictures of the young woman. She asks him if she can help him, and the guy just mentions that he didn't want to bother her. He just saw a good light falling on her and thought it was good to capture the scene. He also mentions that the girl is very beautiful. Rodney tries to get her to like him and offers her to model for him because he is about to participate in a photography contest. Amy starts to smile, and having no other option she agrees to pose for Rodney's lens. Meanwhile, in 1978, Cheryl attends the TV show. There she is being prepared for the show, and the host informs her that when she gets on stage she should not be smart or she will intimidate the bachelors. She also asks to change her wardrobe for something more flattering because he believes that Cheryl has a good body and wants to take advantage of it. Now in 1971, we meet another woman who is in the middle of moving out and asks for help to Rodney, who is just in the area. Bad luck for this young woman that, after having a few beers, this psychopath takes a picture of her to finally end her life. Meanwhile, Cheryl and the 3 bachelors are presented in the program. There, a young woman from the audience recognizes one of the men who is nothing more and nothing less than Rodney. The woman does not feel well at all and seems to feel immobile. The program starts and Cheryl asks several questions to the bachelors to know them a little more. Rodney, when answering, falls very well with the public, and this makes the young woman who recognized him more nervous, so she decides to leave the studio, tripping over a cable and interrupting the live program while they go to some commercial breaks. We learn that Rodney ended the life of the best friend of the young woman who recognized him. She reported this fact, but practically never found the culprit. Meanwhile, Cheryl is given more pre-made questions, but she decides that now she will ask her own questions because she can't even get fired, so she wants to at least have some fun. The number 2 contestant makes disparaging comments about the girl who attends them, even about what he would do with Cheryl if he were the winner of the date, to which Rodney mentions that this will not happen because he is the one who always gets the girls. Meanwhile, we see that the woman who fled the show, Laura, tells her boyfriend that she recognizes Rodney because he stayed one night with her friend who turned up dead, and she is sure that he was her murderer. Her boyfriend doesn't quite believe her, and this angers Laura, who ends up throwing him out of her car. On the other hand, the TV show continues. This time Cheryl has changed her questions, which takes the contestants by surprise. Some answer and others don't. Rodney is the only one who answers in a reasonable way. Even the host of the show is uncomfortable with the questions, but Cheryl does not shy away and continues. Laura decides to seek out the producer of the program to warn him that participant number 3 is a very dangerous man and that the police have done nothing about it. The security guard takes no notice of the accusations and makes her wait in the office to no avail. Meanwhile, Cheryl continues with the dating game and becomes more and more convinced to choose Rodney as she likes his answers. Cheryl wants to continue with some questions, but the host interrupts her, mentioning that he has to take a commercial break, and when he comes back he will choose the bachelor for his date. While the contestants were talking to each other, Rodney shows contestant number 2 the picture of one of his victims. This no doubt scares the guy, and Rodney just scoffs, mentioning that it's a made-up photo. Upon returning to the show, as expected, Cheryl chooses Rodney as the winner of the date as she gets to know the other contestants in person. Contestant number 2 tells her to watch out for Rodney, something that stuns our protagonist for a moment, but afterwards she doesn't think much of it. The show finally came to an end. With the presentation of the winner, Cheryl met Rodney, who was waiting for her, and he very kindly approached her and asked her out. Cheryl hesitates a little, but ends up accepting. They go to a bar where they have a talk about their interests and what they do for a living. With some of Rodney's attitudes, our protagonist begins to feel uncomfortable. After being told that the bar is closing, Cheryl takes the opportunity to say goodbye, but Rodney wants to walk her to her car and asks for her number. Somewhat nervously, our protagonist writes it down, and while doing so, Rodney caresses her face, asking if something is wrong. But Cheryl says no and tries not to show fear. When they are near the parking lot, Cheryl says goodbye again, but Rodney doesn't leave and wants her to repeat the number he gave her. Since our protagonist wrote a fake number, she can't repeat it. Rodney asks her again if they would see each other again, and Cheryl makes it clear that she would not go out with him again. Scared, she tries to get to her car, but Rodney follows her and prevents her from getting into her vehicle. To Cheryl's good fortune, people appear on the scene and Rodney leaves without being able to do anything. Undoubtedly, the young woman has a great scare, and this encounter changes her life completely, so Cheryl decides to leave Hollywood and prioritize her integrity over fame. Unfortunately, Rodney continued with his horrendous crimes. After having captured Amy, he takes her in his car for several hours to a distant place. On her way, the girl checks her portfolio of photographs. Everything looks strange, but she doesn't take it seriously, thinking that it's Rodney's style, because she doesn't even imagine that they are the victims of this psychopath. When she gets to the place where he will take the pictures, Amy poses for Rodney's lens. Having her defenseless, he pounces on her, satiating his basest instincts. Amy wakes up after what happened and sees how Rodney is crying inconsolably next to her. Realizing that she is tied up and has no way to escape, she decides to gain Rodney's trust by pretending that everything is fine. Rodney unties the young girl and pretends nothing has happened. He even apologizes to her. However, Amy, during a stop at a gas station, manages to escape for help. Upon hearing the police sirens, Rodney understands that his time has run out and is finally arrested after evading justice for several years. This film is based on true events, and although Rodney Alcala was finally arrested, the damage he caused to more than 100 women could have been avoided if the complaints of women like Laura's had been taken into account. And so ends this story. If you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave in the comments what you thought of it and what movie you would like us to summarize.